Hey, my name's ShawNshawN. I sell art on ShawNshawN.co and Screenreads on ShawNshawNacting.com. Today we're going to review The Profile, or I think it's just The Profile. So this is a film by Timur Bekmambetov. They actually shot this in 2018, but I think when it was going to film, it was coming out right when COVID broke, so they just delayed the film till now, so there was a little bit of a delay. The time is an hour and 46 minutes, so I like an hour and a half, but this is just spot on. There's not a minute extra in this film. There's no wait. It's not too short either. It's just exactly like riveting all the way through. Actors are Valerie Kane. She plays the head Amy, this journalist, up and coming. She's struggling to pay her rent. They're trying to buy a new house with her fiance, and the fiance wants this big house, and she's like, I don't know, we already... So there's that kind of drama. And she decides to investigate trying to infiltrate ISIS, who is recruiting actively during this time frame. Morgan Watkins plays Matthew, her fiance, who's really attached to her and chasing her and trying to plan their life. But then as she gets deeper in the story, pretending to be a girlfriend of this crazy recruiter, he's just like, what is this? And then he starts to lose interest. And so there's a risk there of her losing him. Christine Adam plays Vic, the editorial boss where Amy is trying to land a job at, and Vic is very demanding, very driving, kind of fed up with Amy. She thinks she's kind of lagging as a journalist, not really pulling her full weight. She's like, hey, we got to get this story on time. So there's this dead set pressure to get the story out. And Shahad Latif plays Bibel, the recruiter in ISIS, who's originally from London. So the story is this bidding journalist. She's trying to break into the industry. She's writing pieces, but she's not full-time yet, so she's kind of write a piece, get paid, write a piece, get paid. So she's kind of struggling there as far as getting paid full-time. She's dating Matthew, obviously, as they're settling down on a house, preparing to probably have kids and get married and all that. And she lands on the story idea of, hey, what if I infiltrate ISIS and find a recruiting? This would be a great story. And her boss buys into it, gives her a little bit of time. But at the same time, it's dangerous because the recruiter is obviously very skilled at recruiting girls into the group, as well as ISIS has this presence of very online presence, terrorizing people with their videos, and as well as investigating people, the dangers and their enemy. They really have a really high developed IT team to kind of figure out where people are. People betray them. They really take harsh vengeance. Like this one girl who's seduced at 15 and goes there. She tries to escape when she realizes it's not what it was. And that girl is just stoned to death, right? Which is basically Quranic law from, the early, couple hundred years ago, right? But ISIS has reverted back to this more primitive version of the Quran, or, some people would say the truer version of Quran. I mean, depending on your interpretation of Islam. But I think Muslims would not resonate with the extremes of ISIS. They might be very devout, but I think most people want to be friendly and not kill their fellow man. But, this is kind of on the fence where people are internationally, whether Muslims are dangerous or not dangerous. I mean, I've known several Muslim friends, so I would say they're not. So it's just kind of an exaggeration. But at the same time, you see the tenets in the Quran are very much what ISIS is following. So you're like, are they really crazy people, or are they really just devout Muslims? It's kind of like, But anyway, that's a whole side bit. I mean, Christian radicals are crazy as well. The Mormon, the Amish, etc. But they don't tend to be terrorists nowadays. So, Christianity went through its kind of terrorist phase, I would say, in the Middle Ages. They were hanging people, inquisitioning people that splintered off from the Catholic Church. They were killed right away. So, the Christian Church went through its own methodology, and it was basically, 1,200, 1,400 years out from the original foundation of the religion. Islam started 600 years after Christianity, so if you had 1,1200, you get 1,800 till now. So it's right in that time frame of where religion kind of goes through a crazy period, I would say. Crisis foe, and then they'll probably, normalize later after that, but probably in 100, 200 years, it'll be a much more moderate religion. Most people are obviously moderate, but I think you get what I'm saying there. So the really interesting part of this film is it's all shot kind of on Facebook. Everyone's looking at their laptop. The jihadist is using, the recruiter is using his iPhone only to kind of talk with her. Sometimes he's at a PC cafe And so he's on a PC cafe or on his phone, and so you don't really see much of him. Obviously, they're shooting videos of him in the real Syria, supposedly, but it's pretty dangerous. You see him killing people and blowing up stuff and shooting a love heart in the sky. So you really like, whoa, this guy's a little out there, but he's very seductive at the same time. So hence why he's a recruiter. And so, yeah, it's just shot with, this laptop. The journalist is usually on the laptop. There's always a danger that she'll expose herself somehow. She creates this fake profile, but somewhere during some of the filming, she accidentally uses her journalist profile, and you're like, is he really seeing that? Because sometimes she shares the screen, and she shouldn't be sharing the screen. So it's like, is she really staying on the up and up with these people? And the IT person she's working with is actually, I don't know if he's Pakistani as well, but yeah, I think he's Pakistani second generation. She's like, what the fuck is this? Because obviously all those community is somehow connected. It's a very tight-knit kind of community, especially when you're an immigrant in a country and you're a small minority. Those communities get much tighter. And so the recruiting cells within ISIS would kind of figure out where you're at in those communities. So there's a real danger there at the beginning of the film. And also the danger that he's this really seductive guy. He's pretty good looking. He knows how to cook well. And, he looks good. So you're kind of like, is he really that bad of a person? And so he's slowly kind of seducing the journalist. And she knows she's being seduced. But at some point, you don't know whether she's really being seduced or playing a part. And you're like, it goes from playing a part to kind of slowly being seduced. And then you're like, is she going to really get pulled in at the very end? And you just don't know the whole film. I also like the fact that this deals with ISIS itself. When ISIS came out, I know they started putting videos out on the internet, and they would see these terrible like beheadings and all this stuff. And me personally, what I did is I put on my Facebook, anyone that shares any video by ISIS as a terrorist will be freaking blocked permanently. And so I just reacted and just started cutting out all friends that shared this video. So I really cut down on the impact of ISIS videos on the West. I felt, that was my own personal part as, as far as what I could do as a citizen in the West to protect, further people from seeing these horrible videos, which would attract some people that would go to ISIS, but at the same time, really terrorize the population, especially young kids seeing this. It's just horrific. But again, if you go to, say, Saudi Arabia, some of this is typical there. Like, you have beheadings all the time. You do have stonings in Saudi Arabia. So it's not like this is far field from some of the more radical, pure Islamic cultures like Iran or Saudi Arabia. They both have really extreme public hangings and such that it's just like... So then you get to the question of, how moderate is Islam in other countries? So you're like, I don't know. It's moderate in the West, but, There's also this tension with the boyfriend kind of losing interest over time. And, by the end of the film, it's like, is she going to lose him completely and she's going to fly back? And they're having this big fight. And she's like, fuck it, I'm going to go to Turkey. And you're like, oh no, don't go there. You're going to be killed. And you just end up like talking to the film. Like, please stay. Like, you not really normally talk to a film, except when you're really involved with the film, right? The other part interesting too is both, the journalist is obviously lying to cover her journalist, but also the recruiter has a kind of a fake name as well, so you don't know. And so she's investigating him. At the same time, he's gathering information on her, and you're like, who's going to uncover what first? So there's a real danger there that things are going to go askew for her. The finale is a really strong ending in Act 3. There's this really kind of duplicitous seduction role that he plays to kind of pull her in really strongly, which is very effective. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's a very strong pull in there. You're like, oh my God, she's really being seduced. You're like, no, maybe she's not. And you're like, totally mind games that he's playing with her. And she actually physically flies to Amsterdam. Like, what are you doing? You're flying to the hotel that he could probably kidnap you maybe off the streets of Amsterdam. Who knows what, And this was a real danger there. And supposedly she stole her. And then she's going to go to Turkey, and she's like looking at flights to Turkey. You're like, no, please stop. So it's a really dynamic. You're like, oh my God, is she going to get out in time? Is she going to, realize that she's still a journalist? And so it has that tension all the way through this whole film. It's a really great film. It's just, there's a really unusual format, just shooting laptop and everything. There's almost no music score to this. I don't think it's necessary, but you get the real drama tension because you're just hearing like tick, 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 tick from the keyboard and the clicks and sounds of just that, isolated world, which normally you wouldn't really think about too much, but because there's no music, that's just heightening more intense flavor to the film. Very documentary style, but really shot pretty well. And yeah, just really great tension between the editor, the journalist, their battles, the journalist and her fiance and their battles that he's kind of pulling away, the journalist and the recruiter as he kind of pulls her in. She's faking it. Is she not faking it? And the recruiter, probably the danger of him exposing his group. If he gives out too much details, he could be probably killed off by his own group or captured by the West. So you have this great tension and all these battles through the whole film. Is there's no dead spots at all. You're just riveted all the way through. You're like, you start the film. You're like, oh, this is kind of a weird way to shoot the film. And then the whole film is just shot off laptop. You're like, what is this? But it's just completely riveting. I would highly recommend it. I don't know if it'll get an Oscar or not, but it's freaking awesome. A really interesting film. If you'd like to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And I'll see you on the next movie review. Thanks for watching, guys.